Hello everyone, welcome to a tropical weather checkup for August 26th. Today we're going to be looking at Typhoon Bobby, the two tropical depressions in the Pacific, and of course Hurricane Laura. Enjoy. And here is the look at Bobby. You can see that southern eye wall. It looks a lot like Isaias right now. When Isaias was hitting North Carolina, that southern eye wall was completely demolished, and that's why the storm has weakened from a Cat 3 down to a Cat 2. Here's the cloud fall. You can see that cloud fall reaching up into Russia. That's how you can tell that northern side of the storm is very strong, and here's why it's weakened. Water temperature is not as warm as it was where it was south, about east of Taiwan earlier. Here is a good look at past 24-hour precipitation. You can see that white area east of Shanghai, and lots of purples and reds, some on the South Korea coast. So there's been plenty of rain where this storm has passed through. Here's wind speeds. You can clearly see the purple and blue area and where it's going to be hitting the North Korean coast. Pyongyang could get tropical storm forced winds or maybe even hurricane forced winds. Here's a look at Bobby's intensity, 110 mile per hour winds and moving north at 16 miles per hour. For some reason, there's been no pressure gauge this entire time that the storm has been here. At least I've gotten no pressure gauge on my resource that I use. And here's our look at Tropical Depression 13, very recently formed in the Pacific, a little bit west of Mexico. Currently 35 mile per hour winds. They think it could get up to a weak tropical storm and then weaken back down to a depression before fading, like most storms do out in the Pacific, at least in that area. Here's the cloud fall, very disorganized, as you can see. And going over to water temperature, it will most likely meet the same fate that Genevieve had, except this will most likely not affect Baja California. It might barely, but not as much as Genevieve did. Here is past 24-hour precipitation, the white area. You can see 5 inches or more of rain in that white area, very west of Mexico. Here's wind speed. That dark blue is where the storm currently is at, and you can see it's slowly moving up. The storm is moving incredibly slow. Here's the intensity, 35 mile per hour winds, 1,006 millibars of pressure, and moving east-northeast at 2 miles per hour. As you can see, as I said, moving extremely slow. They're expecting it to get up to a tropical storm briefly and then fade out into the Pacific. Here is the cone for 13. No current watches or warnings in effect for anywhere. Again, they're expecting it to weaken down. Here's the chance of tropical storm forced winds. A slight 5% on the Mexican coast, but very unlikely to happen. And here are the models. Only one model taking it onshore in Baja California, and by that point it would be a weak tropical depression. And here's a look at 14, the other tropical depression in the Pacific. Both of them will most likely have the same fate, though, just fade away into the Pacific, which is good because Baja California has already had enough to deal with Genevieve already hitting them. Here's a look at the cloud fall. As you can see, much more organized than 13 is currently, at least. Here's the water temperature. Very cold ahead for the storm, honestly. And that's why they're expecting it to strengthen and then weaken again, only becoming a weak tropical storm briefly. And here is past 24-hour precipitation. You can see that one white dot where the storm center is at. That's how you can really tell that it's more organized. It already has a center. Here's wind speed. The dark blue area obviously is where the storm is currently going. Here's a look at intensity, 35 mile per hour winds, 1,004 millibars, and moving northeast at 2 miles per hour. Both of these storms are moving very slowly, and here's the path. You can see brief tropical storm status and then becoming a tropical depression and fading out into the Pacific. Here is the cone, no watches or warnings in effect for this storm right now, and that makes sense. They're not expecting it to hit land. Here's the chance of tropical storm forced winds, none on land right now either currently, and the models, not a single model taking it on land, which is good for Mexico. And here is our main storm, Hurricane Laura, currently Category 3, heading for Louisiana and Texas. I'm just going to say my personal insight. If you are in the path of this storm, evacuate. This storm could be devastating. And this is the part that amazes me the most, is look at this storm's cloudfall. It looks like Katrina crashing into New Orleans or Wilma crashing into Florida. The storm is going to be bad. If you're in the main path of this storm in western Louisiana and eastern Texas, evacuate now. If the storm wasn't about to run into Louisiana and Texas, the water temperatures would be warm enough for it to probably get up to Cat 5. Here is the past 24-hour precipitation. You can see where that storm has passed through. All the whites and purples is where that main eye wall has passed by. And here's the wind speed. You can see that black line around the eye. That is where the strongest winds will be, and you can really see it expand up as it becomes a Category 4. Let's just watch this again. Already wind speed affecting certain cities in Louisiana and Texas. Here's a look at intensity. 125 mile per hour winds, 956 millibars of pressure, and moving northwest at 16 miles per hour. Currently a Category 3 storm. Then they expect it to make the jump up to Category 4 and then make landfall in Louisiana and Texas. And then actually Arkansas is another state that could get affected with possible hurricane forced winds, but most likely tropical storm forced winds. And now here's the cone. Hurricane warnings all across the southern coast of Louisiana and Texas, and also some tropical storm warnings on other coasts of Louisiana and Texas. Also looking at the cone, if you live in states like Arkansas, Missouri, Tennessee, Kentucky, Virginia, West Virginia, and even the Canadian province of Newfoundland, you could also be getting some tropical storm forced winds or tropical depression forced winds. Now going over to the chance of tropical storm force winds. Here you can see that purple and red area down by Louisiana and Texas, and then a large green area in the open ocean, and including parts of Virginia and North Carolina, which I find very interesting. Here are the models, and most models say the same thing. Louisiana, Texas, and I'd also say Arkansas are probably in the most danger, possibly also North Carolina and Virginia, since they could see tropical storm forced winds. Now this is something new. I'm just showing this for Laura. This is the infrared cloudfall. This can really show how strong a storm is. The darker the clouds, the colder the clouds, and the stronger the storm. You can really see how strong this storm is heading for Texas and Louisiana. And another thing I want to look at is water vapor. This is water vapor, and you can just see how good this storm looks. Thank you for watching this video. If you want more tropical weather checkups, then definitely comment down below. Stay safe, and especially if you're in Louisiana, Texas, or North Korea and China right now, since they're all about to get hit by hurricanes or typhoons. Stay safe. Bye.